Hello, everybody. So, thought I would come on here for a little while today because I did a short version last night before I had uh, get out of here. So I did a short version to my whole thing of ridding Satan from your mind and your body. So I'm going to make sure I kind of elaborate on it a little bit more and not try to rush through. So, I don't know how I feel about this one. I mean, marshmallow doesn't really seem like anything that should be a drink flavor. I mean, sure. I mean, it's not as cold as I'd like it to be. So it does have almost a cream soda sort of taste to it. So, anyway, um, as I was trying to talk about, um, some a lot of times, you know, have these issues, and they're like, in this whole thing of being attacked. You know, the enemy's attacking me, and I need prayer. Okay, because one thing that really brought me to the point of needing to do this. So first off, I'm not a person that's going to be name dropping anybody. All right, put that out there right now. So I have a Facebook group under the same name for anybody who just randomly comes over my videos. For those that are members, they are subscribers to my channel know this, but I have one person in that group that at least once, if not more, times during the week is in need. And it's not for any different reasons. It's always for the same reason. And I've even tried talking to her. You know, she had called me over Messenger previously, and I had talked to her, and I had expressed to her my thoughts and everything in regards to her issue. Yeah, they're right there. No, you do the red string to go right down there. Anyway, so here's the deal. Okay. So I'm going to have to elaborate a little bit. So, all right. There's a man that she'd been with And then they separated, and then they got back together, and then they separated, and he's basically kind of fallen off the map. So, and she wants him back. But she says that the Lord has, kind of given her the word that they are meant. And she does not want to let go of that. But she feels that the enemy is constantly on her, trying to get her to give up, making her feel depressed, things like that. That's why I say when you have issues with the enemy getting in here, telling you things, you have to make sure you know what. Sometimes you have to make sure you know what you're doing. You can split them apart. Because, okay, first off, in this situation, while she is completely bound and determined that it is God that told her that she is meant to be with this man and that she needs to wait for him, even though they've been off and on, he has even had issues of previously being unfaithful. No, I would not say that it is always guaranteed, that it is the Lord saying you need to, this is your one and only. This is the one you're meant to spend the rest of your life with. Sometimes I'm one to believe that there are certain people that you're not meant to be with forever, but there comes a certain point. Okay, now God knows everything, beginning to end. He knows the whole entire story before we know a chapter. So, here is my belief. Okay. Now, let's say every single one of our lives is a story. Right? Every single one of our lives is a story. Now, let's say, we don't know the story. God knows not only the story, but he knows all the characters. He knows all the little plot twists. He knows everything. He is the author of our story. So I believe that when it comes to certain characters, that they're not meant to always be there till the end. I believe, let's say there's point A and point B. Right? Now, you can't always just do a straight line through. Sometimes it's impossible. But if there's something in the way, you can't do a straight line through. Sometimes you have to go around. And if let's say you're driving, okay? You're going from point A to point B, but the distance between point A and point B, you have to stop and get gas, or you have to stop and eat. You have to make a stop. So there's something that's going to split off in your path. So who's to say that point B is still going to have this person that you met somewhere What if basically, in a sense, that person is kind of like a hitchhiker? You have them for a while, but then you drop them off at their destination and you continue on your way. Who's to say? But you can't always be bound and determined that the Lord has decided that, we want this person in your life. They have been a problem. They have been unfaithful to you. But guess what? We want this person to come right on back to your life. Why would you do that? Why would you continue to have issue after issue and then just come back? So, I would really be asking myself: is it really God telling me these things, or is the devil just trying to keep me in misery? Because that's the game he plays. So, he enjoys anytime he can do things against us. All right. So, who can truly say that the enemy has nothing to do with it? Yeah. You just have to ask yourself, first off, is this what God would truly want for me? And then, if you feel like the enemy's still sitting there messing with you, you know what you gotta do? Kick him out. Get in here. Like I said yesterday, if you have to seriously envision yourself confronting whatever you picture Satan to be, if you have to actually mentally use your imagination like you are confronting your bully, you confront him, you tell him what's what, and you make sure you get up in his face and give it your all. Tell him everything. And just watch him shrink. Just unload on him. Like, if you were ever bullied back in school and you never had a chance to just say and do everything that you wanted to get back at your bully, Satan is your bully. Satan is the bully of bullies. When you got bullied back in school, who do you think was behind that? It wasn't just some kid. No. There was somebody else that was in their mind. So, keep that in your mind at the same time. Is that the bully that you had in school had somebody else up there that was making it happen. They're doing the registration right over there. Oh, yeah, that's where you just got to keep it in mind, folks. Is that he's the bully. And when it comes to your bully, you just got to beat him down. You have to be a camper to do that. Oh. So anyway, that is my biggest point right now, is that in order to get Satan out of your mind, you got to picture unload everything. And once you unload everything and you make him to that little tiny ant-sized little thing that he is, then you just got to pick him up, open up that door in your mind, and go, click. Slam that door shut, lock it, lock all the windows. Say goodbye, devil. I don't need you. And when you walk over to your other door and you see that bright light, open up that door and say, Holy Spirit, come right on in. Come in, Lord. Just come on in. Make yourself at home. That's how that's going to work. All right. So that, about 15 minutes or so, other than a little bit of pausing here and there. That is what I have to say on the subject of Satan. Now, I do have some other topics to discuss as well. Hang up here. All right. Oh, boy. What else was I going to discuss here? Sorry, I cannot completely remember what my topics were. Other than Satan. So yeah, there was Satan. That was definitely one big one that I wanted to get on. Well, I'm saying another thing I wanted to also get on it is as far as the whole thing with Satan goes. I think I've gotten tired of it where I get so many people that want to get into this whole thing of Satan is responsible for so many things, like Satan is responsible for this. Satan's responsible for that. Satan does this. Satan does that. No, Satan doesn't do this and that. See, the thing is, when people do that, all they're doing is they're basically giving him props. They're giving him more power. That is another big part of my discussion here, is that people need to think of it this way. When it comes to Satan, the more you talk about him, the more you fear him, the more you claim that he's the one responsible for all bad things, the more power you're giving him. If there was a way to make everybody just not care, not even think of him, erase him from minds completely, you know what Satan would be? Satan could basically just vanish out of existence. He's only as powerful as you make him. You want to make him the most powerful being on earth? He will be. You want to make him as weak as a fly? He will be. But it's all how people make him. It's that easy. So you also have to keep in mind is that those things that you let him do, they're just doing damage. They're doing damage here, they're doing damage here. Speaking of, I'm going to fix this. Don't let the damage. Make him disappear. Okay. It's card only. Oh. Yeah. Next gate, there's a store. All right. You're good to go. Okay. One more moment, and I will get right back to it. Okay. Now, here's the other thing here. All right. So, soul wounds, spiritual wounds. Now, all your anger, all your guilt, all that stuff you carry, damaging in here. Okay? When it's damaging in here, and it's damaging in here, the harder it is to get you bills. Imagine the wounds in here, anger, bitterness, frustration, things you're not letting go. So, imagine a red Solo cup. Every single thing is one more hole. Everything that makes you angry, everything that makes you bitter, everything that makes you jealous. Any unforgiveness, any of that we carry in here and in here, it's just one more hole. Right? Now, Holy Spirit is like water. Can you fill that cup without losing a single drop? No. The more holes, the quicker it empties. So, if you start getting rid of all of that in there, all those holes, all that will start to heal. And the more and more Holy Spirit you can contain until it overflows. And when it overflows, it's basically making you brand new. Because you don't carry any of that with you anymore. So, the less you carry here, the less you carry here, the better off you are. That's what you got to keep. In order to feel better in here, you just got to make it better in here. So yeah, that's one thing everybody needs to keep in mind. Now, there is another little thing I wanted to discuss because, see, I have been thinking about it. and realizing just how big the ripple effect could be. What was that?
Our friends already have sites. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Mhm. So, anyway, here's the thing. All right, the ripple effect. Because I came up with this whole thing out of one little situation. Okay, so the basically what I call the invention of common sense. Now, what if when Adam and Eve were in the garden, Eve was approached by the serpent? Okay, now Eve gets approached by the serpent. Everybody knows that story. Now, what if she took the fruit and went back to Adam, told him everything, and then he basically just goes, so here's the deal. I named all these animals. I was here before you. I didn't have anything else to do. I need to. God wanted me to go ahead and start naming. So I named all these animals, and I can tell you right now, all these animals make noises. They do. They make sounds. None of those sounds are like the sounds that we make. Okay. So that serpent talking to you definitely makes me raise a question, because any serpent that I have seen, that they don't talk. They really don't. They don't talk. So sorry, but you know, they, nah.
Curious, there's no days here, so like, where's the best place to go today? Just up the road a little bit more?
Yep.
And then like left right after before the boat launch, you go left and then that would be days here? Is that
Yep.
Just gonna figure out whether
All right. So anyway, now back to the point. See, I mean, yes, I could imagine he would have been frustrated if he actually used this a little bit more and went, oh, thinking maybe they're going to get in trouble just because she even touched it, because she picked one. Just like, oh, no. And I could definitely picture it where he's just like, all right, you know what? Let's just hope for the best here. Lord, we need you down here right now, please. And then he shows up. What seems to be a problem? And she'd be probably holding the fruit. And like, why did you pick this? I told you. And, like, I can be like, well, we did not eat it, but there was a creature in the garden, a serpent, that talked to Eve and tried to get her to eat it. Yeah. They're right there doing the registration doing there. Yeah. But yeah, that's all. Just a little something on his part. All right. Day use?
Yeah.
Let's jump to next game. Yep. So anyway, here's the thing. All right, I'm gonna let you slip because yeah, you might have picked the fruit, but you didn't eat it. You know, God basically be like, all right, give me that, take it, and whatever God will do, you either disappear out of his hand back onto the tree or whatever, just to keep them from eating it, and then be like, all right, so where's this serpent you spoke of? And then, you know, find it. And he start, you know, God kind of approach it and be like, so, you're trying to get my children here to consume that which I forbid them from consuming. And, you know, if he was really keen to the whole idea, he'd basically know, oh, you're still trying to you're still trying to pull off some stuff. I mean, I don't think he'd just go, all right, I'm going to leave you slithering on your belly for all eternity. No. I think what he'd do is he'd be like, all right, Satan or Lucifer, you know, just grab him around the neck, and then I cast you out of heaven. And now you're here doing this? No. You want to do some naughty things, you bad boy. So I'm going to take you back up to heaven. And I'm going to make you regret it. And then basically take him back up there. Make sure that he is forever stuck in this form, that he cannot go back to his angelic form. And basically kind of imprison him in something. Or whatever. You know, I mean, many different ways that could go. But the main point is he's stopped from eating the fruit. And without eating the fruit, they do not get kicked out of Eden. They don't get kicked out of Eden. Born. But guess what? Because there is no sin, more than likely the Lord does not make them do sacrifices. So therefore, the bringing forth the best of his flock to the best of his garden, that wouldn't the Cain Abel would never happen. In turn, at least until maybe even just a future point when the numbers of individuals on Earth are larger, that maybe by that point that sin does occur because of some reason. But at that point, sin doesn't occur, leaving a good chunk of time where there is no sin, if not permanent. And without sin, we have no reason for Moses bringing the Jews out of Egypt. We have no reason for Noah building the ark. We have no reason for anything. Basically, the Bible would be consisting of the first 7 days. Of that's it. There would be really nothing else to talk about. Jesus wouldn't have even been a thing. Revelations wouldn't be a thing. And that's all it would take. One tiny little situation. Just poop. That's just the one thing that changed everything forever. But everything in the Bible, there are certain things that could always cause a ripple effect. Let's go ahead and fast forward to New Testament time in the life of Jesus. Now, what if Jesus did not stay so, I guess the word would be so pure, untouched? What if he didn't die a virgin, basically? What if he married Mary Magdalene? What if those two became something? They had children. Those children would be the offspring of the Lord, which more than likely they would also have, to some extent, the power of the Lord. I mean, there's no saying exactly how long they would live because, we would all live longer if there was no sin.
How you doing?
Right?
I'm going to Insights
50. Now, anyway, here's the thing there. Okay, so given the fact that without sin, we more than likely would all live a lot longer. So who knows what the lifespan of Jesus would be? I mean, if you think about it this way, if there's no sin, he's not getting crucified. That is to say that if the ripple effect of Adam and Eve occurred, but yet he was still created. Now, if there was indeed sin, but yet, now, yes, he would be put up on the cross. The whole thing might happen the same way. Here's the thing. It's that Jesus has offspring. So even after his resurrection, return, and basically before he departs, basically lets his disciples know that his children need to be watched after. And that his children's children will need to be watched after. So basically, from that point on, the apostles might have children of their own, raising those children to be the apostles of the next generation. Those children raising their children to be the apostles of that generation. So then, by now, let's say that there's a generation of, let's say there's another generation, and there is basically a however many times over grandchild of Jesus. And they're apostles. I mean, more than likely, the big ripple effect also there. What would also be a big portion of that ripple effect is if there was any offspring that those children would continue on doing as Jesus did. So that the word would just keep going, keep going. And more than likely would have wiped out the majority of religions as we know it. Because there would only be completely 100% solid proof of one God. So the Hindu religions, they'd probably be gone. Scientologists, oh boy, they'd be gone because there'd be complete and absolute proof that there's no anything up there that's their higher power. No, somebody's not showing up on their spaceship to take them away. But yeah, well, that's how that would go. I mean, yes, we would still have Christianity. Would the Jewish religion still exist? I don't know. But would the Christian religion and the Catholics, do this sort of thing? Probably not, because they would still have a strong influence keeping all of this together. So there wouldn't be a split off because their opinions differ. Because there would be solid proof. So there'd be no anything. It would be 100% solid proof. So, I mean, Jews might still be around just because they were basically the first religion. So, yeah, maybe. Unless the Jews basically all converted to Christianity, and then we'd only have Christianity. But yeah, there would be no Satanists because there's complete and total proof of God, in the flesh. Yeah, you want to go down. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's another ripple effect. I mean, that would be the greater ripple effect, to be honest, because there would be no question. There would be no religious war of who's right and who's wrong. There'd be the almighty proof of what is. And that would change everything. So yeah, there are two major examples of a ripple effect and how that could change the world as we know it. Now, I want to recap certain things from this week that, they do some of them do kind of frustrate me. All right, so first off, because we've had multiple celebrity passings this week. Two of them, three of them, they kind of got swept under the rug. Two of them, I don't even know who they are. I've only seen pictures and posts about them. I think they were musicians. It was never really my type of thing. But then Malcolm Jamal, last name's kind of drawing a blank right now. Now, I do remember him from the Cosby Show. And then I remember him from the, so he had a good bit of stuff going on from early on to current. He had a career, and it is a sad thing that he probably had a family and everything, that an incident just left them with nothing. That is a terrible thing right there. And I mean, I don't know anything to his background. I don't know what his beliefs were. I don't know if he was a Christian. I don't know if he even believed. That's something I don't know. Hulk Hogan. There's some people that thought that certain things in his past, the racism remark, the sex tape thing, all that type stuff. Now, yes, was it harmful for his career? And his did it put a bit of a smudge on his legacy? Yeah, that it did. But, and it's a big but, he did redeem himself. I mean, not only did he basically feel bad and apologize for his actions, another thing that he did is he truly embraced Christianity. See, now, I mean, for years, people remember like, oh yeah, back in the 80s when Hulkamania was running wild, brother. He had his little gold cross around his neck and everything, telling people say their prayers, take their vitamins. Everybody really bought into the fact that, what he was saying and what they were seeing, that, oh yeah, this is the man. But then came a point when this was no longer seen around his neck. And that there was a point where things all started to change. And, he was never again really that say your prayers, take your vitamins guy. So it was kind of believed that, I don't know if that was just part of his whole gimmick that he was doing, but I know that if that was part of his real belief system, that I think there came a point when he sort of fell off. When he kind of went to the dark side more than just character. Because there was a lot of changes in it. And I think a lot of it had to do with money. Because the more money he was making with everything he was doing, I think that's what really started to corrupt him. that it was all about the dollar. Even after his wrestling career was over. I mean, Hogan knows best because it was another way for him to continue making money. I mean, did his kids kind of hurt things too? Yes, they did. And then one of the main things that he was known for was his wife leaving him, which is what brought out this whole racist thing because he, out of anger because she was with a black man, he let it out. A good idea on his part? No. Yep. Just go right on down there. Mhm. Only propane. So, anyway, and while his kids did not help his cause, and some things in his history were, let's just say there was times where even in some of his things that he wrote in his books, he just didn't get it straight. Like that. He just didn't get certain things straight. I say he was a compulsive liar. Maybe. From everything that I have gathered between interviews and other videos that I've seen that have kind of broke down certain things from Hogan's past and certain things he didn't get right. I mean, one of his biggest lies ever was when there was the big steroid trial going on, and he claimed that he did not take them, when in fact later on he admits to it, but he was on live television and he didn't want to admit it. He didn't want people to look at him differently. So he lied. Even though he was telling the truth. So, then, years later, what happens? You see and his when you're in your 60s or 70s and you get baptized because you want to come back to the Lord, there's nothing wrong with that. People do it. And he made sure that he did it. Do I think that he did it knowing that his time was counting down? I can't say. I don't know. Maybe he did. I mean, it's not entirely impossible for somebody to know that their time is ticking down, which moves on to my next subject. The one that had brought up some controversy, Ozzy Osbourne. Now, a lot of people judge him because, his Black Sabbath days and things that he did in those days. Oh, yeah. He was responsible for the occult. He was responsible for this. He was responsible for that. Was he responsible, or were his fans responsible? I mean, because he was in more of this, Black Sabbath was a little bit more into this whole darker thing that they went darker. So then the fans kind of fed into it a bit more. And there you go. I mean, certain things also, while some people, like it was pointed out to me today, some people take like Mr. Crowley and talking about the real Mr. Crowley. And that whole thing, and saying that that was part of his whole satanic side of things. But, I haven't honestly not researched. So I can't say for sure on that one. But, I mean, it was brought up like when he put out War Pigs. Even Sharon Osbourne herself came out and said that War Pigs was a anti-war song. Are Satan anti-war? Not exactly. Destruction, the fall of government, things like that. Of course, Satanists would be for that. But then let's fast forward a little bit too. All right, so one of his biggest examples of something I would say actually borderlines on the idea of Christianity is Mama, I'm Coming Home. He wouldn't be referring to hell. That'd be kind of messed up if he was telling his mom that, if he was singing the song for his mom and she was in hell and he's like, I'm coming home. No. No, I mean, it's like he kind of that eventually, his time was going to be up, like all of ours is, and he was going to be rejoined with his mother. And I'm not really sure if it was like the real life passing of his mother inspired that song. I haven't done any research into his songs to go in depth, but I probably will. And then people that about all these other things, Prince of Darkness, whatnot. Now, let's take a look at one of his songs. Just one little line of lyrics where he tries to correct everything. Now, he basically tries to take things from Black Sabbath days and just kind of go, no. He basically tries to shut it down, where he says he's not the Antichrist and he's not the Iron Man. Just that one line, he basically tries to say that, he's not these things that he got labeled as. Anybody can be what they're labeled as. I mean, all right, let's see. People refer to him as Ozzy Osbourne. Was Ozzy really his name? No. That's just a name that was basically his stage name that just became his name. If you were to see his driver's license, would it say Ozzy Osbourne? Probably not. Because from what I have seen, looking at Wikipedia, what was his first name? Michael. Now, let's take a look at some of the other things that he did too. Yeah, see, I can get on a bit more of a roll with him, okay? Because of certain things that he did. Yeah. 1991 is when he first converts to Christianity. Now, this happens, okay? And then like a lot of Christians, he did have a stumbling and falling kind of point because he struggled with addiction throughout his career. But I do believe that at one point he actually got to the point back in 2020 when he was diagnosed with Parkinson's that he did fully embrace. For day use? Are you talking about for day use?
I'm sorry.
For day use.
Days?
Day
Day
use.
use. Sorry. Yeah. Day use.
There is no day use right here.
Okay. Isn't this what the area?
This is mostly camp.
Yeah.
Yeah. Day use is down that way.
Down that way.
Yeah, so if you go back out here and go down the road about another mile,
Okay. And that, what is that? What would be the pretty?
the road's going to go right into it.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm. You see the awning down there? Anyway, now, I'm a firm believer thinking that 2020, when he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, that he started to further embrace. Especially because of the fact that he was no longer really heavily in the public eye because of this. Anyway, yeah. There is also one other thing, too, is that not only that, but I also believe another thing is that because he knew that his time was close to being up, he performed his last concert. He took himself off of all of his medication, all the pain meds and everything that he had been on. He stopped taking because he wanted to be as clear-minded as possible to give the best performance he can. What evil, satanic person would do that?
Do you know if anyone turned in a blue charger that was plugged into the bathroom?
Not that I know of.
Shoot. Okay. All right.
If you see any of the white trucks with the NID on side, talk to them. Because
Yeah, I'm wondering, well, maybe I wasn't supposed to, and they saw it out.
possibly.
Are there people here right now, or is that like people up there?
Well, he's not there. But I would say if there's anybody else in
Is it like a
here,
radio or anything?
I can't really radio to him because,
Doesn't work that way.
yeah.
All right. Well,
But they tend to come down this way every hour or two.
all right, cool. All right, thank you.
Okay, so it really makes me a firm believer in this whole thing too. Is you see, not only somebody who's willing to kick all of their drugs that are keeping them out of agony. I mean, come on. You can't tell me that somebody with suffering Parkinson's is taking a bunch of pain medication and then he completely stops it, that he's not suffering. Oh, yes. He is suffering a lot with all this pain that he has going on. And then he does his best and performs this show, even though he cannot move because he is in a chair. He performs a show and does not show a single bit of pain to people. He doesn't want anybody to see it. No matter how much pain he is in, he fights through it and gives one performance that people will remember forever. Then he turns around and makes sure that the over $100 million, it was believed to be an estimate of like $108 million from that show, was donated for Parkinson's research, so that other people from that can start being healed or cured of Parkinson's, so they can find a way of getting rid of it, so people don't have to suffer that same thing. That doesn't sound like the Prince of Darkness. That doesn't sound like somebody who's demonic, somebody who's the Antichrist. No, not at all. That sounds like a good Christian man doing what he can in his last days to try to help others. And he knew that his time was coming to an end, because he put on this show, and then within a couple of weeks, he was gone. So, that's something you normally wouldn't see. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up here, and I just want to tell people, don't be judgmental. It's not something for us to do. Judging is not meant for us. Judging is meant for the Lord. I mean, did Ozzy go to hell? We don't know. We can't say for sure. He can. I mean, it's all up in the air for us. Can we say for sure that none of us are going to hell? No, we can't. Doesn't matter how good a Christian you are. If you did certain thing wrong that God didn't like, who knows? You might end up going to hell. So you can't judge other people. I don't care what scriptures you read to try to justify you judging somebody else. It's more messed up that you tried to go through scripture to find a loophole so you could judge somebody else. So just keep that one in mind. And until next time, folks, I want you to all have a good one. Be loving to each other. Pray for one another. And be blessed. Peace.